Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? So, I'm getting into the live streaming game of podcasting on YouTube, and it's actually kind of been fun. I'm liking it. And if you like video podcasts, then I would head over to Josh Bolton Show for YouTube. It's my logo and everything. And you can actually see the video live and comment, and you can even see it a week before I publish on the podcast feed. So if you feel so inclined and hardcore, you could actually get a double dose. But then that's pretty much it. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
Okay.
There we go. Now we're good.
Okay. Well, I'm leaving it up to you. You do it however you want.
I'm just doing live streaming this week, so it's kind of like the figuring out the bumps. Okay, hit the live button. I forgot to hit the recording.
Okay, no problem. Do we need to start over? Or we just keep going.
It's going already. So screw it. Let's go.
Yeah, awesome. So but honestly, in martial arts, we were talking about the tap out gyms and too big to fail, and I see those guys fail all the time because they start. Honestly, in my opinion, many of the people that make all the decisions in tap out, they don't have a martial arts background, and while having a business background is good, you see all these mistakes. Like almost all the times you see, fake belt, black belt revealed. Well, where is he? He's at a tap out gym or something. He's either at his own school or at a tap out gym. He's never at this small school run by a black belt, because that guy would have caught him immediately.
Oh yeah. There was, so when I was learning Kempo with my instructor, he took me under the belt, be an instructor and learn all the sales and stuff. And I had a guy come in, claim he was a 10th degree black belt, this and that. And he's like, I trained for 20 years in Okinawa. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, come on, glove up. Let's go in the room. And he kind of like paused and like immediately said, because you wouldn't take that challenge, you are not a black belt. And then he just kind of like bowed his head. I actually like ripped his belt off him and said, get the fuck out of here.
It might offend some traditional martial artists, but there's for sure some traditional martial artists that have, like, you can define a black belt, but if you're defining a black belt as in a legitimate person that is allowed to give black belts has awarded you a black belt, there's plenty of them that can't fight. For sure.
Right.
So, I mean, they give them to 7-year-olds. So, but yeah, there's a lot of them around also that, they bought their black belt from Century Magazine. So There's those too. And if he's the 10th degree, there's a better chance that perhaps he's bought 10 of them from Century Magazine.
Probably. It's like buy 10 one stripe black belt, get your 10th degree free.
Yeah. We can get whatever. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's not about the belt. It's about the training and stuff like that. And
yeah,
you can go buy a Halloween costume and you can get the belt whatever color you like. That's not what anybody was talking about.
No. You remind me of Red Dragon Karate. When I was first signing up, we were in the LA Fair, and I still remember to this day, this one lady with like watermelon sized tits in her gi. She was completely not look like she was supposed to be there. She was all dolled up and everything. Her nails were like the long. Then this one guy is wearing like full camo gi. And then another person's wearing a gi that looks like an actual clown outfit. And I just sat there and I'm like, this is martial arts. This is a weird, over exaggerated, misproportionate stuff. And then that's where I found my instructor. It was like this cool Chinese Shaolin Temple theme, Shaolin Temple. And it was just one of those. We signed up 15 years ago and haven't looked back. I was just telling him, like, that lady with like the freaking watermelon tits. He's like, yeah, I saw her too. He's like, she doesn't know martial arts. I'm like, I could have told you that, and I don't know martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and more precisely, I've done traditional martial arts. I've trained all sorts of things. And more precisely, I do 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which is a style of no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu founded by my coach, Eddie Bravo.
Interesting. Okay.
So in other words, I'm pretty open to progressive attire, right? So if you've been to my coach, like Eddie's got a great school. A lot of world-class UFC fighters drop in, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But everybody's wearing like rainbow spats, whatever. I mean, so you can right. To me, that's not that important. And a lot of the tradition of traditional martial arts, especially for adults, I don't think it's essential. I think there's different vibes, and that culture is not for everybody. But yeah, I think you can be legitimate and wear your camo gi, wear your spats, whatever.
Right.
There's other warning signs other than that. At a karate school, man, I've never seen at a karate school though. Like, it's probably more of a warning sign at a karate school because karate's typically a lot more traditional. And even just like a black gi, if somebody's got different colors gis, that's a little bit weird at a karate school.
Oh, it is. And that's where I was saying to him, I'm like thinking Karate Kid, he had his white gi, his thing, like, and then I'm seeing this lady with like a teal green. And I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, well, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the more traditional schools, you typically have a choice, like say Gracie Barra in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
You typically could wear, they're very traditional. Uniform must have their logo on it, but you still get white gi or blue gi, which is way more choices than a normal traditional. That's like the most traditional BJJ organization that's popping into my mind. Then most of the standard ones, I mean, there's certain restrictions on length and whatever, but you can kind of just, a lot of the rest of them, you can wear a number of variety of different colors, black, whatever. And then you got no-gi places like my coach where you can literally wear unicorn rainbow spats.
Hell yeah. I want to go to this place and just do it.
Yeah, well, you can do that at my school too. I'm fine with it. Most of my guys don't, but I got one coach that does some of that at least once a week. He'll wear something totally ridiculous. So I'm all about, like, training should be fun. And, we don't have to take ourselves that seriously.
Yeah, same. Actually, I remember once one of my training buddies, when I was teaching, he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he took me to a tournament. I was young, and he just paid for me to get in. And I remember this one guy coming in with a hot pink gi. And immediately, his name's Ernesto. He was like, I bet you $20 he's going to win the whole tournament. If he's willing to wear that to a tournament, he knows his shit. And then he won. I was like, damn it.
Yeah. There's a story about Gene LaBelle. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an old school judo guy that supposedly, in a time in judo where you absolutely did not do that sort of thing, that he wore a pink gi. Supposedly, he said it was like a laundry mistake. Like he washed stuff with, later in interviews, he said like it was a white gi and he washed it with red shirts or something the night before. Well, it's the only one I got. And it was one of those that it wasn't on purpose. But yeah, he's famous for, and judo's much more traditional. Like you don't do that sort of thing. And, But he did, and he did win.
And it was just one of those, I was young and I was still learning, and I didn't know the context of, like, if you wore that, like, you know your shit. So now when I go in, anyone with a hot pink, like neon pink specifically, I'm like, oh, I bet you that one's going to win.
Yeah, well, it's like confidence, and that's definitely not a guarantee. But I get what your friend is saying. It's like, a lot of people are so uptight going to a tournament, and if it's your first time and you're super nervous, that's probably not what you chose. I mean, who knows? There's different people in this world, but a lot of times those guys are just so confident they're going to go try out and make a statement or whatever, and yeah, could be.
So I'm just curious for you, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what are some of the tactics that you go in with your students, kind of thing? Well, let me rephrase that. How did you handle Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu during COVID?
Oh yeah, so not very well. So okay. I can tell you some COVID stuff. So at the beginning, like I try not to break the rules in general, not
Right.
just law, whatever. I'm not the biggest government regulate me more sort of guy. However, I try not to break the rules if I don't have a reason to. And okay, we'll do, like I was trying to play by all the rules. So I remember I legitimately, like, I did what I was supposed to do. I shut down. And then at that time, I was actually sleeping upstairs in my gym still. And I remember I got a little notice of violation thing on my door because we're zone commercial. It's like, you can't be in a gym. It's like, look, it was literally just me has been in here. I live by myself upstairs at the gym. I'm like, so that's give the government an inch sort of thing. And that's kind of just how it started. I stayed shut down for the mandatory amount of time. When they said gyms could open, of course, they're non-specific about martial arts. So then they go all these, you got to be 6 foot away and you got to do this and that. So we did all that. So if you don't know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're listening, it is like kind of like wrestling with submissions and chokes and stuff like that. In other words, it's a very, very touchy contacty. There's no 6 foot. So
yeah. You're going to get some interesting armpit situations or groin in the face.
Right. But it's not like most martial arts are not so 6 foot friendly. However, some of them have forms you could do, something you can do solo, even boxing, kickboxing. You can do bag work for a little bit, like jiu-jitsu, even just basic drilling. There are some drills you can do by yourself, but you're expected to be like touching a training partner the entire time. So the government does not like that sort of thing with COVID. So we got, like, I got the most expensive grappling dummies stuff. And like, we followed the rules on that. And like, I went through all of that. I probably lost about close to 90% of my student base. Over the whole shutdown, I mean, I did Zoom Jitsu. So like I got
but how would you do that though?
Well, I got creative.
Okay.
And I mean, once again, I built a home dummy, but then I didn't even use it because, like, man, not everybody will have that. I could go to the gym, but I actually was living at the gym at that time. And I went over to my parents' house on their upstairs on carpet to film it because I didn't want to have mats because I knew my students didn't. So I went over to do it on carpet because I didn't have carpet, right? So I went to find somewhere that's less comfortable so I would be in the spot that they were. And I would say 5 or 6 people got on with me every day. I taught way more classes than I did before it shut down. So, but that said, I mean, I did the very best I could. I networked with other people. We had a guest instructor every single day.
That's
we had
cool.
Guest black belts, and I was a guest for other gyms and stuff like that. And I made these networks for people, and like I made it an awesome experience for people that tuned in. That said, everybody's all depressed, not excited about jiu-jitsu on the internet, which I understand, not that exciting. And most people, they quit coming. And when you quit coming for 3 months, it's hard to get back into it. Like I haven't, most of my life, I was like small, weak, out of shape problems, but I was always on the small side. Like my first tournament, I weighed in at 114 pounds as an adult in like the 149 division, the smallest one they had. So the only thing I've had is I've never been fat. So after COVID, I was both fat and skinny. So the first time, so still not like big muscular guy, but then I added like 20 pounds of fat. Like there was the first time I have back problems from a car accident. They started getting worse from not training, being sedentary. It's like, oh, you're feeling better from not doing all that jiu-jitsu. I'm like, no. And then, it was not easy for sure. And fortunately, I do pretty good with not spending a lot of my money on. That's how I'm able to make other companies and do stuff on personal stuff. I've never had a new car. Like I said, beyond when I had to, I was sleeping in the gym. So I had some savings and stuff. I even helped out some other school owners during that period. Had I not, I mean, we couldn't have made it because the government's, stimulus this, loan this. Like, man, that's not nearly enough. That's not nearly enough.
They did not it was literally just chump change to what actually should have been handed out. But if they did the actual handing out, inflation.
I mean, should have. I mean, there's no win there because should have. We already have all this inflation and everything. I mean, there's just no. That's what people are missing. Oh, if it saves one life. Well, meanwhile,
how many other
that
lives
was like the saying in the beginning. Meanwhile, I mean, you keep people at home with people that were being abused. Like, hindsight's 2020. Like I said, it sounded like I was always like, I don't know, but like, is it really just going to be 2 weeks? Because it wasn't even in my city yet at that time.
Where are you at, by the way?
Beaumont, Texas.
Texas. All right.
Meanwhile, a state that was notoriously not as regulated as many of them. Mm-hmm. Canada might still be shut down. I'm not sure. I know it was shut down forever. It might be.
Okay, so where I am in California, we just let up like a month ago on our strict rules. Australia, they smell COVID. They finally are just saying, go do your thing. So yeah, it looks like it. But the funny thing I've been telling people, Mike, they're letting us all go, but there's a new wicked variant going around. So come June, we're all locked up again.
I mean, pretty much what you did if you were in California is you had two choices. Or three, I guess. But you either completely go out of business, which is what they told you to do. Oh, you can find another job. I'm like, well, you bit this up your whole life. That's not supposed to be the government's job.
To just shut you down.
Yeah, to go mow lawns or something instead. That's literally what the governor supposedly told one gym owner in somewhere.
No, Newsom was clueless during the whole thing.
Yeah. So you could do that. You could move to a different state. Many people did that, actually. Or you could operate your gym completely illegally. And a ton of people did that. Maybe not right at first, but in California, I can tell you that just a lot of people started just straight up breaking the law. And people got reported. They supposedly ripped out the power for which my instructor, Eddie Bravo, he rents, but supposedly they came and cut all the power stuff of his building. That's what I was told. So that's what the police or government inspectors, whoever it was, okay, now you go vandalize property if people were in there. But yet everybody, I think they still kept going. I mean, well, there's no other way to pay the bills. Yeah. You didn't give anybody any other solutions.
Yeah. And that was actually my instructor for long. He did it. He'd locked down for the 3 months or whatever it was. And he was just I'm tired of these stupid Zoom calls. So it was one of those, I told him technically what they're worried about is the 6 foot distance. I said, you're introverted anyways. I said, the whole scare of COVID in a closed room is there's no airflow kind of thing. I'm you have huge fans, turn the fans on. You just stand 10, 20 feet away. I said, it doesn't matter where you are. You can see a problem half a mile away. And if anyone comes, you're what are you talking about? I have airflow. They have a mask. I'm 10 feet away. I'm fine.
Well, that's after, because at the beginning, it was at least 3 months or so. Maybe it's.
And I was the whole world was closed for at least 3 months.
Even in Texas, that's before you could go to a gym with the 6 foot distancing. Before that, they weren't worried about gyms were just closed. Oh yeah. Period. It doesn't matter what. That's before anybody even talked about masks. They told you not to get one because leave it for the healthcare professionals. Just don't leave your home. That was the instructions at that time.
It was foolish. And it's coming out now that masks don't really work other than restrict airflow.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a magic solution. That's for sure. It was just a certain mindset was approached with all this. And I mean, man, I don't have the magical solution because, I mean, COVID is real. People did die. People got sick. I've had it twice.
I would say I had it at least once. It was December 2020. Yeah. So I'm not naysaying it. It's totally real.
Oh, it's real for sure. I've had it twice at least. Like you said beforehand, there's a chance I had it earlier, but they just didn't even have texting at that time.
Yeah,
Might
they
have
didn't
had
even
it
know.
3 times. Who knows? And it wasn't fun. It was not as bad the last time. Having had it repeatedly maybe helps. I don't know. Maybe
You got like a natural vaccine for it.
well, I mean that's not how this vaccine works. I'm not a vaccine expert, but that's what I'm told. But yeah, in general, that's how vaccines work. Basically,
Yeah,
right? They expose you to a piece of it. So yeah, I mean, I get how that's not the most attractive way because not everybody makes it when that happens. But yeah, I mean, it's real. People get sick from it. However, man, I think people just maybe have gotten so used to the vast amount of wealth, though we complain about it here in the United States. Since I've worked a little bit with people in other countries, I can kind of see it. People they're very used to the vast amount of wealth here, to the extent that people can't comprehend a number once it's so a certain size, right? And so people see the vast amount of wealth here, and they just go ahead and assume that's infinite. It's so vast that it's just infinite. So they assume the government can just it doesn't matter about stopping production. We have an infinite wealth. Well, but
Right.
if nothing's being produced, which fortunately, that didn't actually happen quite like that. Some production, but people didn't even consider that. If things did completely stop being produced, no amount of wealth really matters.
Right.
But you can't tell that to a normal person because normal people don't think about it that way. In other countries, they understand scarcity, but we don't even really know what scarcity is. I mean, I get it. There's poor people. I came from a really poor family. Like my family made something like $6,000 a year when I was growing up. Could have got on food stamps, but they were too proud to do that. That said, we were still, from a global perspective, we were wealthy. I never starved to death. I didn't have maybe what I wanted to eat, but I never starved to death. Globally, I believe it's something like $5,000 USD would be 50 percentile for the globe, the equivalent.
Oh yeah. What a part-time worker only working maybe 10, 15 hours a week makes double someone's making in Africa, other than South Africa, because they're like the super rich area. But yeah, like the Nigeria area, oh god, they'd freak out if you handed them $100 because what are they going to do with it? They're misers, they're kings now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just places in South Africa. Of course, some of those places are poorer, but there's many countries that are pretty developed. They have internet, they have cell phones, they have whatever. And, a lot of people are like, yay, remote work, keep it this way. Hey, this proves the work should have always been remote, not realizing, hey, there's a dude that would be super excited to take your $100,000 a year job and do it for $35,000 a year and be just as good as you, maybe not as good an English speaker. But he probably speak some English, and he sure would learn for an extra $10,000 a year.
And he would outwork you in a heartbeat for half the price.
Yeah, and there's tons. Well, there's way more because you take India. I'd have to Google it. What, 10 billion-ish people? Way more people.
Mm-hmm.
It's filled with engineers.
Oh yeah.
And they have good engineering schools. Yeah, some of them are coming over here, but some people from the U.S. goes to some engineering schools over there now because they got such a good program.
Oh yeah, there's software engineering, especially like the coding and all that. Oh, leaps and bounds ahead of America, and it's just the same thing.
I won't say that objectively because Silicon Valley still has some of the best guys, but overall, because we have better infrastructure, we were there first. But man, if you're just random, you don't want to compete. If you just got your computer science degree over here and you're looking for a job, you don't want everybody to go to remote. You want to go work in an office because you don't want to compete with those guys because They'll take less money for you than you. There's more of them, and they may be better than you. At least they're close.
Well, I've had a few people from the Philippines talk about how they're making a virtual assistant, this and that. And that was one of them I asked. I said, so what's the difference? I'm like, I know it, but I'm just gonna ask you like a stupid person. What's the difference between the Filipino work ethic and the American work ethic? And they're like, they'll work off the clock gladly because you're still paying them more. And I'm like, what's Americans? We piss and moan so quick just to have that. So, and that's what I told them. I'm like, yeah, you guys have work ethic. There's no price to put to what people in India, Philippines, name the other country. It's like, they'll outwork us in a heartbeat.
Right. Well, one other reason is the amount of wealth that when people get laid off here,
you can still get money.
The fear isn't the same. You're not going to starve to death. There's almost no way. There's food banks, there's government, there's this, there's that. You're not going to starve. People don't really, and I get it. And somebody listens to this and hates on me and sends me a single case or something, but you almost have to get locked in somewhere, be mentally unstable. Like there's so much. You may starve to death and die if you can't find work. Like it's totally different. You have to kill to eat over there. So, and we forgot what that meant. And, because there's just such a concentration of wealth here at this exact second. And we just can't imagine it possibly ever not being that way.
Well, the given demonstration of the wealth, this one, I went to like Pasadena here in California, and it's very left leaning. So there's a lot of homeless. This guy just bought a brand new iPhone, like 12 for like $1,200, but yet he was on the same turn. He's like, I don't have money for food. I'm like, you fucking bastard. You just bought an iPhone.
Yeah. So I've stayed in LA a lot because my instructor, Eddie Bravo, is out there in LA. And so I was staying with my friend Cade Nelson for a while, and he had this guy that had been homeless a long time, and he let him like stay in his mobile home now in front of his house in exchange of like doing some handy stuff and whatever. And that guy told me that he told me, having been homeless, that guy had been homeless for like 20 years. He's like, if you're homeless in LA, you don't need food. Because there's so many places you can get food, but some of the people homeless in LA are making more money than some of the viewers here make.
Seriously.
And meanwhile, having no costs. Not that it's great, there's side effects. I wouldn't want to do it, but it's not like homeless other places, that's for sure. And I'm not complaining that these guys. It upsets people. It doesn't upset me because that's just an indication of the pure concentration of wealth. There's so much wealth that it'll accidentally spill over to the poorest. And we just think that guy's poor, but he's rich compared to most of the world. We're just so wealthy. We're just so ridiculously wealthy that, I remember not until, and this was by choice, but not until like after opening my business, I was 20 something. I went through college. Everybody else I knew some people that didn't come from money also. They all had cell phones. I never had a cell phone. I was traveling to LA instead of like, oh, how could you afford to travel? Well, I spent it on different things. And I rode the bus. I remember saving a hotel in between doing Grappler's Quest Vegas and then doing a tournament in somewhere in North California. So I saved the hotel. Like, I'll just take the bus at night and sleep on its way to San Francisco. And it was like a 16-hour trip. That wasn't the best decision I've ever made. But still, I saved money doing all that stuff from doing like the normal basic living expenses, right? Because people don't know what that means anymore.
They don't.
And then I use that for something that I cared more about. Many people believe, I see that listed in terms of, and they talk about how much poorer we are compared to, and I get inflation, and I get how much poorer we are compared to people. a generation or so ago with the minimum wage and and they're listing these expenses, but like, listen, the richest people didn't have something equivalent to a smartphone, and now poor people, you're listing that as a basic expense. Yeah. As like that's a required. I got bad news. That's not a required.
It's
and
not.
Many people, like if you're like, I can't afford to eat healthy, in my opinion, the eat healthy comes before your cell phone. That really offends some people. But that said, you can find the money somewhere else probably.
Oh yeah. And it's easy. Yeah, it's just funny how you list that, because like I don't have the best phones. And I'm gonna say, you can probably see my hand. I train very hard. I break my phone all the time. And it's just one of those people like, why don't you just buy a new one? I'm like, that's an extra $1,000 I don't have. They're like, put it on your credit card. I'm like, that's still an expense.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not. So I'm still kind of like that I don't spend a lot of money on myself, but I also not mean to hate on people that have money and spend it. I'm more talking about people that complain. If you're complaining about being broke and you're spending money on all this random stuff, if you have a Netflix subscription, not that it's that expensive, and people are like, oh, you can't outsave, like it's canceling Netflix. That's not how you get rich. Like, no, that's not how you get rich. But that's how you do pay for other essential stuff that you say you can't afford right now until you go figure something out.
Right. Well, like for me, I went a year and a half without going to the gym, and it wasn't anything against the gym. I just sat there and I'm like, I saved so much money. I canceled my membership. I now work out at home, body weight workouts, actually in the best shape of my life that I've been in a long time. And yeah, and it's just one of those. I canceled a couple other things. I'm now like saving like 2,000-3,000 a year. And
yeah,
it's like,
and I get that. And I was always kind of like that. I never had so I paid a lot for martial arts, but I did not for like a gym, but I've changed that, and I've started, I've even, so after I got my black belt, so for context, that's fairly recently. I had a gym way before in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Sometimes it takes a long time. Mine took 13, 14 years, something like that. So long, I even forget the exact amount. And that's like training multiple times a day, every day. So a lot of training. But anyway, after I got around the time I got my black belt, I kind of started, I was waiting because I didn't want to get my black belt because I was strong and stuff, but I started going more to the gym. I've even hit up personal trainers and stuff like that. And I think it makes sense to invest in yourself if you have it. I'm not all about save money for no reason. But like, know where you are and don't complain about it. I mean, I was in a phase where I invested, like I didn't have a cell phone. I slept at the gym, slept on mats. I would take the bus instead. But I mean, man, I did all the seminars I could. I traveled and competed. I spent tons of money, and people were like, oh, I don't have enough money to spend. Well, yeah, because it's not a priority for you. Right. So, I'm not all like save for no reason. I do think I'm huge on personal development. So I do think spend money on yourself. If you really think it's going to be the same for you, save the money. But sometimes going to a public gym can have some benefits. Paying somebody to help you, especially I have some injuries and whatever. I mean, that the amount of time long term that saves me.
Oh yeah,
I'm into paying an expert for sure.
At one point before the lockdowns, what I did is, because I was making so much money and I lived with my parents. Actually, I still do, but I was rent free back then, and essentially I hired a trainer, and not because he was going to train me. It was out of principle, because I was like, I'm paying him. My brain works. If I pay him, I want to get a return, because my techniques were so much stronger and better than his. That's where he even asked. He's like, why are you paying me I said, I just need someone to show up, yell at me, and take my money, so I feel like I have to earn it back. Yeah, that's all I'm paying you for.
Right. Well, honestly, a lot of personal trainers, and like a lot of it depends on the person and what they need them for. But one thing they can especially if your goal is weight loss, because let's be honest, you can change your diet alone and do that.
Oh yeah.
You could. You're probably not going to if you're an average American, but you should. If you know you need to, do it. But that said, it's just somebody to keep them accountable. Okay, I'm going to show up at this time. Hey, what did you have to lunch today? Like, just somebody to hold them accountable helps people lots.
Oh yeah.
And on what you said, if you're going to pay for it, you're going to. I do agree with that. I didn't used to understand that, and it's, to me, that's not. I feel like it's not as powerful for me personally, that I don't need it as much. Maybe that's me not being as self-aware in that area, but I know for a lot of people, that's the case. And I never really went the route of like really trying to sell like business coaching and stuff like that. But I've worked with business coaches and I've paid business coaches, and, some of the ones, and I know some of them really well, and I've heard them talk and stuff like that. And like, one of the reasons they don't want to give away, some of the good ones don't want to give away free coaching, is because no one listens to them.
No,
and
they don't.
It's so odd. Like, you'd think, same thing in martial arts. Like, I've let people train for free, whatever, they don't show up. You would think you'd really appreciate it and show up and work hard if I sponsored your membership, but you don't value it because you didn't pay anything for it.
Right.
So there is something. Now, there's exceptions, of course. I have, but they're rare. I've sponsored some people that, but nowadays I try to work something else out where it's not a true free, because people don't value it and they throw it away. So yeah, there's something to that.
Oh, there is. And it is okay to touch on something like your business coach. I've invited business coaches on and I've talked to them, but I was actively listening. So they'd actually give me their knowledge. But that one of them told me off air the same thing. They're like, if you are invested in person and they're not financially able to, but they're willing to listen, he's like, yes, give them a free lesson or two kind of thing. But he's like, people will listen to you if you charge them. He's like, they'll especially listen to you if you charge them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's opposite of everything. Like, I feel like that's bad. He's like, it might seem like you're a corporate capitalist, but he's like, you're actually helping that person because they're so invested, so much money in that they feel now they have to make it back. And he's like, then they'll listen to everything you say.
Yeah, it's, I definitely have had both cases of success and not on. I've worked with a whole bunch of different people,
right,
on different things. And I feel like that's one of my strengths that helped me move to the next level, is that I am willing to be coachable and that I am willing to like try stuff. And if I waste the money and it doesn't work out, then it is what it is. Right. What I learned is this wasn't the one. I didn't. And this is a different mindset that I feel like some people, like, they feel like they get burned and then like now they're a skeptic and they won't invest. Like, the difference, I think, in a lot of the people that really make it is that they get burned on an investment and they make the money back and then make another investment, and whether it's in themselves or something else, and they keep going until they find it. But the average person, they get burned and they learned a lesson, but they learned a lesson. They didn't learn the full lesson, which is the lesson is it's a probability thing. It's statistics, a certain probability these things work. So you didn't learn the full lesson. You learned a lesson you should have known at the first point when you make any investment. Like, the number one rule of investing is you don't invest anything you're not willing to lose, right?
Right.
So you learned that. So you learned the first piece of investing, but not all of it.
Sorry, that's so true. Because like for me, I want to say out of the camera, I don't have to say it the other way. I'm reading books on trading and investing and business now, because when the whole 2020 crash in the stock market, I was like, why are some people dancing like it's the best thing since sex, and some are crying like Beelzebub in the room? And that started the whole rabbit hole. Okay, stock market's business is mindset is spirituality, and that's the biggest one I've realized. I'm like, for me, the hardest thing for me was to step out of my comfort zone and start the show, because I was worried about woke culture and canceling, and I was going to lose my job. And now I sit here joking to myself. I'm like, damn it, that is free advertising. So it's one of those, if I didn't adjust, willing to be more coachable, I'd probably still be just doing the same job, hating my life. Now I look at everything like this conversation and opportunity to, well, first of all, fellow martial artists to talk to each other, but also to just have a good time, compare notes. I didn't have that mindset like 2.5 years ago, essentially. So it is, but it was an investment, a risk, and it's paying dividends beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, I saw somewhere and I was like, I wonder if this is just from somebody trying to sell their coaching program or something. But it was like a quote. And I like, man, this quote is kind of true. It says, it's better to be a sucker than a skeptic. I'm like, I think long term, and there's way more skeptics, but, I've paid people to do nothing a number of times in a variety of different areas. And in some cases, I could try to pursue getting that money back through court and whatever. And most of the time, I'm like, man, that's just not worth the money. In fact, I've never pursued it like that. So it's just like, my thought, though, is, man, this person lost a lot more out of this deal than me from a certain perspective. Now, they didn't put anything in. They got some of my money. But they made me, like, whatever offer they made. A lot of people have offers out there. And I'm talking about, like, not small stuff. I'm talking about something substantial. Whatever offer they made, was it good enough to make me buy it? Which means you had a really good chance to continue to sell me other stuff. Like, if you know about business and marketing, especially if it's coaching, but different fulfillment, different things, like, man, the hardest thing is getting the sales. Everybody thinks, I'm going to be a coach. It'll be easy. I got to do this, that. Like, man, you got to get somebody to want to be coached by you, or you want to, whatever your thing is. It's like, it's the customer base. This is a big part of the reasons why anybody goes to work for any other company, because let's face it, most of you will never be able to make as much money on your own that as you would working for someone else. Why? Not because your time isn't as valuable there, but it's because you can't generate enough business. You can't make enough sales. So when you start generating that business, and you burn that person, that's so stupid. Because it's also highly referral based. I could have gave you referrals. I could have been a return customer. The easy part is the fulfillment. You should have had that system ready to go before you made an offer. So every time that happens, like, man, I mean, you're the stupid one.
Oh,
because there's somebody, since that's the easy part, there's somebody for sure, whatever that you are selling, that will sell it to me also, only fulfill it and do a great job. And I'll just find that person next time, rather than thinking, I'm never going to do this again. I got to be more careful. Like, no, you need to be more careful, because if you keep doing that, you're going to be broke.
Oh, 100%. And that's actually one of those, the mastermind group I was in. And then the guy was a genius, but that was the thing he was pushing. He's like, sales over everything. And I was like, but what about the relationship? Like you said, what about the trickle down effect? Maybe that person wouldn't buy, but they're like, oh, because I had a good experience, I highly recommend this person. You can't price that. There is no gauging that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so sell over everything, that can mean a couple of different things. I definitely think how you take care of customers, because that's what I'm talking about here, is
right.
Like, because that affects future sales. But if you can't when you generate the business, it costs way more to acquire a new customer than keep an existing. I forget exactly where I got those numbers from, but I've read a lot of different numbers from different companies that have run those numbers. And it's almost universally true that it's way easier to keep an existing customer than acquire a new one. But many of these people, in an effort to be more sales driven, they forget that. They're like, okay, got this person, took their money, on to next person, forget about that person. Not remembering that, man, that's the hardest part. So you can set up system. I mean, depending on the nature of your business, man, if you're good at sales, you could definitely set it up in a way that you mainly do sales, and you have a team that do this other stuff. Maybe not at the beginning. I don't know. We're in abstract talking about any sort of business.
Right.
But like, it's not, if you show me a business that's making a very high variety of sales, and the sales have a profit margin, then, and it's like, hey, Brian, congratulations on your inheritance. It makes $100 million in sales a year, 20% is profit. Like,
that's
okay,
20 million then.
That's 20 million profit, but that's like, okay, cool. That business is probably worth $100 million. Depends. May only be worth 15 to $100 million, probably. And I'm not like, oh, I'm so stressed. Like, I just got to find a way. I mean, that business is ready to be exited. Sounds like it's already scaled. Like, it's perfect. I don't have to do any of that fulfillment. Some people hear that like, how am I going to learn how to do whatever? It's like, nah, it already has the sales. It has the systems to generate sales. So there's nothing stressful about that. Like, oh, can we, that's pretty close to going public level. Can I just do that? Get some sales, shares, retire? I'm pretty sure I don't have to even learn whatever the heck this thing is. Probably just to be sure, probably if you want to give me $100 million company, I mean, I'll learn a little bit out of it, just out of principle. But, that's not the hard part. The systems to do that, like, that's so hard. Very few people can do it. That's why CEOs get paid so much, because those guys could build it on their own. You got to make them a ridiculous offer because they're capable of building that business, and only a handful of people in the world are.
Oh yeah, and that sure is. It's one of those. That's where people are like, oh, why do CEOs make so much? They have the company like this and that. Like, we could have the biggest one I hear is Jeff Bezos could have paid everyone $100K a year, and he still have X amount of billions left. And I said, yeah, but I said, here, let's put it this way. Do you know how much stress he's constantly under? And they're like, no. I said, exactly.
There's another fact there also is, how much cash does Bezos have?
He doesn't. It's not much. It's like 86,000. That's the only cash he takes.
Yeah. So you happen to know that, but I ask most people, they're like, I don't know, a couple billion, maybe millions. It's like very little. So what does he have? He has shares of Amazon mainly. He has some property. He has some other things. So what are shares of Amazon? Well, that is rights to control and get revenue from potentially. But does Amazon even pay dividends right now?
No, they don't.
I don't think so.
No, they don't at all.
So he's not even getting revenue for his control of a company, which he's proven to be able to make it profitable, that pays a lot of people. Now, would I want to work at Amazon? Not from what I've heard so far, but
they will grind
that said, maybe it's worse than I've seen on articles, because I do know somebody that went to work there and they said it was fine. Personally, I know someone that went to work there. So maybe it's overhyped. That said, I'm on some of the stuff I've read, but that said, like it's producing something of extreme value, and it's employing a lot of people. And that's really all he owns. So it's like, oh, he's wasting the wealth. Tax that, like, okay, so you just want to take all that and give it to the government, who's proven that they're way less efficient.
They don't know what they're doing with it.
It's just like, he's not wasting anything, because all his wealth, he got so much richer during that. Like, well, he didn't have any more cash. Same with Elon Musk. Why are they so much richer? Well, his stock went way up, and he has the same number of shares.
Well, and this is the one thing, one of the coworkers were yelling at me about, like, oh, he has all this money. I'm like, he doesn't have money. I said, here's the thing that he's doing, that it's known, if you want to look it up. He's taking what, like a HELOC equivalent. He's taking a loan out on his own shares. I said, this is how the rich dodge taxes legally. Because when you refinance and you get your cash from a bank, you don't owe shit. So he technically only makes it's literally $86,420 and point something cents. I said, that is all the government will see that he has for income. I said, that's how we can fund all these projects, is because he knows the game.
Well, so one thing, people are like, hey, how does Trump not pay tax? How do all these people not pay taxes? Well, it's really easy. Once you have a certain amount of money that you don't personally need any more money to spend on yourself, that you only want to do business or charity events, as long as you don't need to declare a profit ever again, it's going to be really easy to make the tax numbers say whatever you want them to. It's the problem for people like you and I that still need to take more money out to eat. We're going to have to pay taxes. But if they're not actually taking, but also on the flip side, all those investments are good for the economy. Now you can like, oh, bad for this, bad for that. I mean, there's multiple points of view, but I acknowledge there's multiple points of view. So, some rich people even say there needs to be more taxes. However,
they'll just make it. I would say Warren Buffett saying, "Oh yeah, tax the rich," but then I'm kind of like on the same note. You won't get the money out of me though.
Yeah, well, you won't get that. That's the thing is like you can change these number. People like the top tax bracket used to be 90%, but then when you Google what the rich used to pay, it wasn't that. No one paid 90%. Like that used to be on the books, but no one paid it.
Right.
So those numbers aren't for the super rich; they're for you and I. So
tax the shit out of the poor and the middle class.
Yeah, well, we call the upper middle class rich, and then we tax them until they're down into the lower middle class. But you're not going to touch Bezos. I mean, Bezos doesn't need the U.S. He could go somewhere else.
He's got plenty of money and different.
He doesn't need the whole country. He doesn't need the U.S. government. So good luck.
Yeah. Honestly, lately I haven't heard him. The last I heard about him on the news is he stepped down to the board of directors and was trying to do something with his rocket company. That's the last I heard. He could be out of country, just sitting in Puerto Rico.
Planet. Who knows where he is?
Who knows? I'm just curious. How long do I got you for?
I didn't book anything afterwards because you never know how long these go. So
I'm gonna say I try to usually, if you had something, I try to summarize it. I'm loving this. Let's keep going. So yeah, but that's the one thing I told people. I'm like, dude, when you get to the point where literally it actually is kind of annoying to have money, then like there's so many opportunities that it's just insane. But I'm like, I've telling my instructor, he's worried about the new world order and the economic reset and all this bullshit. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Sounds like my instructor.
I'm gonna have to meet up one day. But I told him, I said, here's the thing. I said, have you done your research on China? And he's like, well, yeah, they have a digital yen. I said, well, okay, let's put it in really simple terms. It's not actually how it works. If you're caught watching porn in China, they'll take $1,000 from you. It's super simple. It's just extremes. But if you pick up someone else's dog shit, they'll give you that 1,000 from the other guy. I said, now where in that does it say it's going to tax a corporation that way? He's like, it doesn't. I'm like, it's peer to peer. So in this whole new world reset, you're going to want to put everything in a company, an LLC. But you also only want to pay yourself up to like Bezos, 86,000, and that's it. Just ignore the company other than make sure it's functioning. I said, that is how everything's going to work. Those who don't figure that out in time, they're going to be screwed.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I mean, I'm talking about like different little taxi things that I've read about. I am not tax master. I probably
me neither.
I pay way too much, and I should probably just. I know I don't declare every deduction I could, and I probably should go get like a really good accountant, but I haven't got around to it. I just pay the government lots because I guess I love the government deep down. So yeah, that said, I don't have all that. I mean, I do have a LLC for my business. So I mean, if I didn't take any deductions, I'd be broke because if I paid them of sales, right? Like I would make way less than nothing because if you pay, many companies are like that. If you paid the taxes off of the sales, not the profits, you wouldn't have anything. You'd have less than nothing. You wouldn't even be able to pay the taxes.
You actually might owe before more than you realize.
Oh yeah. Well, you would because I mean, what's your tax bracket? Even if it's just say 30%, a lot of people only make 10 to 20% profit.
Yeah.
Depends on which business you're in. Some people manage to run some pretty lean businesses. Some of these coaches, non-scaled coaches, right, organic only, are close to like 90, 100% profit. But the big ones, man, they're running they're running ads, they're shoveling so much into expense, then they hire other teams to fulfill, like, then they're down like everybody else. If you look at, then there's all these awards for sales of these different things, and that's cool. But it's like, yeah, you did $1 million in sales. Well, some people do $1 million in sales and like make almost no profit whatsoever. It's possible to do. And then some people make $1 million in sales. And it's like, they did really great.
Oh yeah. And well,
but it showed that you can make sales, right? So either way, not hating on that, but there's people, like I've talked to them at marketing events. Some people, I know people have made $1 million in sales and made basically very close to zero because they just found something that could do lead gen, like a front end product that was paying for advertising and churning through it. And they found a little niche that worked for a little bit and they made $1 million in sales, but they made basically no dollars.
Oh yeah. And that was the biggest one. I was helping out and I realized it was just, I didn't even understand the full cash flow statements and all that I do now. I said, hey, you spent $900,000 in ads on Google, Facebook, and Instagram and all that, but you only made $1 million, and then you had to pay your team another whatever. So actually, you lost $10,000.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're doing that, that sounds like a business with a lot of opportunity. Because if that's this year, now if that's year,
that was 10, a long time ago. That was pre-pandemic.
Well, but I'm saying, like, if that's so, let's say that's at the end of year 1 or year 2 or what of their business, and that's what they did in this last year. Future potentially looks really bright, right? Because all those people are former customers. We have email addresses. We can market to those customers. We have a brand. So we didn't make anything. What we did was we invested $10,000, right? Which is not too much to invest in a company that can do $1 million in revenue a year. Now, can it do next year? I don't know about your business model, but so like that, there could be something there because that's the saying is if you have a break-even funnel, if you have a break-even process, and then that can scale, then, I mean, right, that's almost all you need to get started. Like you could be a millionaire. Like, because if you can break even, then that means you can get infinite advertising. If you can break even at scale, you can get infinite advertising and infinite customers for free. So that itself isn't worth any money, but you can then take that and you can get, I mean, how many of those people will buy another thing later, remarket to them on the back end through email? Like some percentage for sure. If your product is good and you sold $1 million worth, then without ads, some of those people are just coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, like if you told me that, like, I don't want to make those people sound like idiots because I don't know anything about their business. And if they just lost $10,000 a year every year, they probably would close their business. But if it's the start of it, like, man, they might really have something going with those numbers.
No, they were struggling. That's where they were so desperate. Yeah. They asked me, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, like, I hope you're taking.
Well, at that point, I mean, yeah, hire a good business coach or something in their area, probably. Mm-hmm. Find a specialist, because it sounds like from those numbers, there's something there, because you got all those people. I mean, are they doing email marketing? Are they doing test message marketing? Do they have automated campaigns dripping out? Are they using these lists that, like, because the most valuable thing I saw there is, like, you have not only a list, you have a list of people that have bought from you. What are you doing to use that? And if they're not growing, it sounds like the answer is nothing. They found they
just got lucky for like 20 years, essentially.
Right. Well, they found Facebook they found, if it's 20 years, then what sounds like happens then is they found something that worked with paid advertising. Paid advertising got more expensive. There's people that they made a lot of money with the business was fueled only on Facebook ads. Yeah. And then as Facebook ads got more and more expensive, that they couldn't pay the cost to acquire the customer, and that they didn't utilize all that time they had generating all those customers that they could afford to build something sustainable. Mm-hmm. And yeah, many businesses have disappeared that way. That's why a lot of those businesses aren't super investable, in my opinion, because they're like, some niche little thing. Oh, I've got this little thing. And congrats if you can run ads to something and on the front end you can break even. Really, congrats, because that's harder than most people think it is. But even if you can do that right now, once you get there, you got to really start to think about what your long-term plan is, especially if you're doing it at scale, because those numbers can change at any time.
Oh yeah. And that's where like you said, hindsight's blessing and a curse kind of thing.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yes. Now
or do we not say 2020 anymore?
I know. If we triggered someone, please go tweet us on Twitter or whatever. Screenshot this. I don't care. But literally, that's where now with hindsight, I would have realized. I would have asked him, like, okay, what is your this and your that? How are you paying your customers back in loyalty programs? Like, but I was just a young kid. I kind of knew the basics of a cash flow sheet. I'm like, you're technically losing money.
Well, that's not your problem. That's their problem, because they went and asked some student for free instead of, they know they have this business with a huge amount of potential. And once again, they were a skeptic they're way closer to the skeptic instead of sucker end. Is like, hire a professional business consultant. Like, you don't like these coaches? There are consultants, professional consultants in your industry that can give you some advice there. And, that company could potentially be sold or acquired as well. Because even if it doesn't make money to somebody in that industry, for instance, like, this is purely theoretical, but say I had a software company that I'm about to have, and say one of my competitors, it turned out they weren't profitable. And I had a similar business and they wanted to sell, but say they were doing numbers like you're talking about. If I could afford them, I would probably buy them, because to me, I can change those numbers. I just need the customers, because I have a set of business, like I have a process that's profitable in theory. So if yours isn't, I can buy your customers, change them to a product that's better because yours is falling apart. And I just acquired all your, so you could still potentially sell.
Yeah.
So there's so many different angles that they could go with it. I mean, if they needed to, but that says a lot about them. If they're like, just the only advice, hey, we really need help. We're struggling. We're about to go under. Let's ask somebody for free that doesn't know. It's like, that there's your problem. Found it for you.
Oh yeah. And again, hindsight, and that's where I'm sitting here going, like, you should have, this was 2015, 2016. I'm like, you should have Googled like business coach or my business failing. What do I do? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these business coaches aren't great. A lot of them have never run a business, but no, I mean, and you know what, if you go for the cheapest one,
you're going to get what you pay for.
But you can find somebody, and you know what? If you don't want a business coach, you can get a consultant. You can start by going to some marketing events. You can go to some different places, and like every coach that I've ever gotten, I haven't just straight up hired a coach. I've been to different events or seen them, listened to what they had to say. It's like, okay, cool. I could learn something working with this person. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. You can find somebody that can probably help you some. But the people that, like I said about the CEOs making a lot of money, the people that can help you with something like that, they're not like the minimum wage dude. Sorry, love you, minimum wage dude. I hope you're a CEO one day. But if you could be a CEO now, like, you probably wouldn't be there. Everybody thinks, oh, I could do the CEO's job, but the job is hard.
It's very hard.
Maybe you can do it one day, but there's steps to get there. And not acknowledging that, and just not being willing to understand that, like, hey, a guy that could help me can't afford to, and then you wouldn't listen to him anyway, like we discussed earlier. Like, he can't afford to like just spend time talking to, like, you're gonna have to pay for that. You're gonna either have to hire him, you could hire a new CEO, you could hire a consultant. I mean, there's cost-effective ways. There are a lot of what I told you. I have an engineering degree, a lot of what some engineers do, some industrial engineers do, is they do little audits of different companies. Like even something like Subway, they'll audit the process of how a sandwich is made and do like, okay, well, the lettuce should be over here. It would be faster. And there's simulations and stuff that they can run on that. So this is a different side of what we think of as business coaching, right? This is what more corporate does with, it may be better for a lot of people actually. But there's different simulation softwares. There's a lot of stuff in there where you can look at, break down, okay, how many customers have to be in line before somebody leaves, right? So then you're losing this much money per customer. So when the process is this slow, so during peak hours, can we justify having another employee here? Okay, where should this be? Where should this product be, that product be, to make it faster? Different things. That's just an example. So that Subway was an example that was used to me in an engineering class as somewhere that has hired consulting for something like that isn't what people think of, because people think of the plants, right? They think of factories, refineries, plants. Those are who need optimization and engineers. But really, anybody will hire that. And if you're doing, I mean, there's marketing consulting, and then there's efficiency. And it sounds like your buddy could have benefited from almost either one.
All of them, pretty much.
Yeah. So
I was in college too, and that's where I even told him, like, I'm not even getting like a business degree. Why are you asking me for this kind of thing?
Yeah, because they have the wrong mindset. They have the scarcity mindset. So they went where scarcity mindset people go.
Out of business.
Yep.
So I'm just curious for your red belt CRM.
Yeah.
What would be the basic pricing? Let's say someone's willing to do the beta. What would it cost them?
Oh, for the beta, we probably are going to have because you're helping me beta test, like some different free offers or pay offers or something like that. When we actually sell it in a couple of months, it'll be $200 a month.
So like if they come in on beta, they could get locked in at what, hypothetically 50 or 70 a month kind of thing, because they were beta?
I mean, I don't have
I'm
all that
hypothetical
pricing right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would definitely, we'd be probably options in terms of, hey, you just want to do it for free now and then sign up later, or are you willing to start paying us now? Cool. I'll grandfather you in at some sort of discount for sure. But we're going to come in at the same price point as our two most expensive competitors, and we have more stuff than they do. And we function better.
Well, so the only reason I'm even asking is my martial arts instructor essentially has his wife. Your texting was the sell point for me. He has his wife using the company phone, texting everyone. I'm like, dude, you could take so much off your plate if you just buy this guy's software.
Yeah, for sure. But it's, I remember a time. So I have a CRM now. I've went through a couple of them for martial arts school owners. And like I said before, I don't think that part was being recorded, but I've went, like, I just felt like we could do better, that compared to what else is out there in other software, that it could be better for martial arts school owners. That said, even from what was there, when I went from nothing to using it, at first I was, because we were exactly how you were talking about your instructor was. That said, like, my first year was very close to break even. Second year, profitable, but very narrow, like not me making minimum wage when you break down hours.
Right.
But when I finally, I paid for some coaching, I paid somebody for a coaching program that was a martial arts guy. It was $500 a month, and I didn't have $500. But once again, I hustled, and before the credit card was due, and I got it. And like shortly after that, I got a CRM. I got all this stuff. So the revenue tracked with the expenses. When I was scarcity mindset, I was like I couldn't, and that's one thing that coach said, well, you need to hire somebody at least part-time to take some of the phones while you're teaching classes, some of this stuff. And it's like, well, I can't afford to hire somebody. But that was a mindset thing, because if you do things the right way, and I mean, asterisk, not financial advice. You can always go broke do investing in your business. But I feel if you do things the right way, as you're scaling and you're hiring more employees, you're buying more infrastructure, you should be making more money. And that was the case for me. Is when I wouldn't invest in these different things because I couldn't afford it, then I was stuck. When I started doing, and some of the things I invested in, by the way, did not pay me back anything. That's part of the asterisk I included a second ago. Some of these things that, like when I almost couldn't afford to spend any money, some of the things I spent money on didn't give any return, but still better chance than many people like, I'm doing bad, better go have a drink at the bar. Well, I didn't do any of that. And so you've got zero chance of a return on any sort of spending like that. So at least if you put it into your business, you have some sort of chance. You'll at least learn something. And if you keep trying, my thought is, I mean, there's a way. If other people are making money and making a living with the business, and I mean, not just one person, if a lot of people are doing it, there is a way to do it. And success leaves clues. Go find that out. And, I want to do things my own way. You can do that. And I've innovated and whatever. But like one thing I did first, though, is like the first thing I did was like, okay, if I'm going to pay this coach, I'm going to I'm going to do that and change this and that. I started by like, okay, I'm going to copy exactly what he says. And we're going to get there. And then you can make some tweaks and make it your own. But like many people, some people are so smart and creative that they'll never get anywhere because the wheel was already invented and you're struggling and there's a proven model that works and you're not doing that because you just think you know better, but you haven't even had experience doing the proven model. So you don't know enough to know for sure if you do know better or not. So you do that first, and then you slowly make tweaks to your idea. And like, once you're in there, you may think like, those ideas that I had, some of them may not be that good. And some of them may be worth pursuing slowly, one tweak at a time. That's A/B testing, right? So we don't change everything. Like we do something that works. Okay, I want to change. Like we're going to take one little thing and change it. Is it better or worse? Okay, if it's better, that's the new default version. One little thing and change it. Rather than taking the whole business and they're like, okay, well, there's these proven models, but I'm not even going to start with one of those and change it to what I want. I'm just going to do a random thing. And if you are Elon Musk and you just want to start Neurotech or SpaceX and you have large amounts of funds, you go do you. He also has experience and he's got a decent chance.
He's also
if you don't have money to lose, I don't recommend that.
Oh no! And like I said, he's also kind of borderline crazy. He's running almost 4 companies,
There's that
kind of thing. But he's also, this is another one I tell people. I'm like, when you get to that point, like Elon Musk, it almost makes sense to intentionally light your money on fire in random projects, because then you can figure out what works and what doesn't. Like that's what he does. People
like him see money differently because most people see money and they see things. They see stuff they want to do with it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care because he only sees vision. So the only thing is like he's trying to accomplish something, and then money can be a means to that. So he doesn't need any more things. So it doesn't matter if he quote unquote loses money. In fact, he might not even see loss the same way you see loss. Which is one reason why some of those companies aren't public, because how investable is Neurotech or SpaceX? Perhaps, I don't know. But
I'll say SpaceX now, if he can actually perfect it, that would be a very interesting company. They both might be investable one day, but right now it's like, are you going to invest in something that their product may be? And I know he's got some short timelines, but I don't know about those. Just like everybody was going to be, the car was going to be driving themselves. Like, I didn't believe that the moment he said it. He was like, it'll be up and running within 2 years. I'm like, you have so many delays. No way.
Well, I mean, to his credit, the Tesla actually can drive itself. It's just this government regulation, different things, bugs not out of it. But like, yeah, I mean, he actually does kind of he mainly has a self-driving car. It's really cool. but
the biggest
not
one,
on the timeline he first said.
no. And the biggest one, and this is even us humans driving, other humans are such an unpredictable variable. Like, even if you taught the best computer every single possibility, some human's going to figure out something and it's going to catapult off a bridge. And
right. Well, I've kind of got a pure theory, and it's just a theory, but that one day, I think probably in you and I's lifetime,
probably near the
we
end,
will see driving made illegal. Because to me, and you'll probably always be able to go do it on a track, right? Like, you can race horses on a track or whatever. You can put certain cars, race cars, you can only race on a track, like private tracks or drives.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as public ways, it seems like, because that's the final step, right? Which that would be a slow adoption. But once most people are there, it would just be, okay, these old, because that's the weak link. And once you had most of the population, I mean, that's what the government likes to do. They see it and then they may lose. So that's what they're going to do. I think is they're going to make human driving illegal, and it actually would make the process much smoother. Then you could have like chips in the roads. You could have camera, like basically everything would be on a network. Communicating with each other, because right now when your car drives, it only knows what it knows. But the ultimate version of it would be is if it was on a network, that it knew what the road knew, it knew what different cameras knew, it knew what all the other cars knew. It was and that's not nearly as sci-fi as some of the other stuff Elon Musk is working on. So it's definitely could be done. And I think that at some point, once self-driving cars were super mainstream, eventually there's going to be a push to remove the human element, to make it illegal.
Well, so and that's another one, as a personal theory too. I think, especially with this fear of the digital currency, one thing actually China has tied. So if you have an automated self-driving or even electric car, because they still have to connect to the internet, if they don't like what you're doing, they'll just kill your car right there.
Right. They're super. I'm not saying there's not concerns with this, because there's a lot of concerns as, and the digital currency is part of the conversation too. Is like, okay, well, is there a way to keep the government from controlling it? Is the government just going to, in the end, going to be able to have their own and control everything of that too? But yeah, I mean, while I can definitely see my theory is, for good or bad, that's just what's going to happen. Well, that's the next natural step. But I do think it's going to save lives.
Oh, 100%.
I also think it adds to the government's already incredible power and potential invasion of privacy.
Yeah, the final one. Actually, I heard a podcaster say this. He's like, I'm interested when you go into Facebook ad or whatever the ad platform is at the time, and then you see the whatever they look for, and then thoughts. He's like, that will be the final, like, as a
they're so close already, because and so many people are like, and I'm not saying Facebook is not doing anything illegal, but I don't think they are. People are like, they're listening to conversations. I don't think they are, personally, because I can fathom how they're able to do what they're doing without it. Mm-hmm. Based on how everything they can track, completely legal, which what they tell you they do in their terms and conditions, which is, some people don't realize, but the vast majority of places on the internet have a Facebook pixel on it.
Oh yeah,
so that you can do retargeting tracking.
It's super annoying.
They know all of that, and they know every single. Not only do they know what you clicked on, as you can maybe start to notice, if you slow down on certain ads, you'll see more of that type. Mm-hmm. They know how long you spend on each ad. They know on what time of day you tend to spend more time on the other ads, and then they know how people like you statistically tend to behave. They know times of years where people tend to behave certain ways, and they have so much data They can come to these conclusions, these guesses, right? And they're guesses. And then people see like, man, I can't believe I saw an ad about that when I was just talking about it. Like, well, they're good at guessing. And here's the thing. Which other 20 ads did you see today? You don't remember those. The one that popped out to you was the one you were talking about. They showed you tons of them. And you just remembered that one. I remember one time I ran this ad that I was doing this. It was January. I was running this local fitness kickboxing boot camp thing at my gym. And I had so much ad spend on it that my average number of impressions per user was like 4 or 5. So the average person would see it 4 or 5 times. And it was targeted towards all women in that area, right? So all women in that area. So if you had a Facebook during that time, and I was putting so much money on it, everybody was going to see. So if you were a woman in Beaumont, Texas, you were going to be seeing that ad during that time because I was shoveling money into it, and people were like, this is scary. Several people said that. I was just talking that I wanted to do kickboxing. Facebook is just they know so much. I was just talking about it. I was going to do kickboxing with my friend. I never searched anything. I'm like, yeah, but you were the right type of person. And every single woman in your area is seeing it because also not just Facebook, but I know that based on the time of year and your demographic that I can afford to show it to everybody right now. So so Facebook doesn't need to see your thoughts. They already know you. So if they could see your thoughts, they'd know less than they know right now because they know statistically what you're about to think tomorrow right now. And you don't know that yet. So, and they don't have to know you exactly. They just need to know statistically to be able to, like on average, this is probably what he's going to do, to be able to run these ads. So they know so much, they don't need to know your thoughts. It's ridiculous how much they know anyway.
Oh, and it was a funny little quote. He was just being snarky, like, we'll see what the day when they say target their thoughts.
I know that. But like, some people don't realize like completely. Now that said, as an advertiser, I can't see any of your personal information. So you actually still have privacy. It's just all it is Facebook is able to offer a ad service to me that gets me customers for cheaper than other stuff like TV because they show you ads that are quote unquote more relevant to you, which is not necessarily a bad thing for you. An ad is an ad. It's just more relevant to you. People are pushing more and more against it for privacy, but I don't see that changing.
No, and if anything, it's going to actually get more creepy because they're going to have to use even more deeper learning. So yeah, they're not using cookies. That's great. But now, like for me, I have a Google phone. So by using the Google phone, Google will always get my data no matter what.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that's why they're making their phones damn good. Even the hardcore Samsung only are like, actually, the Google Pixel is pretty good and it's cheaper. I said, so they'll just figure out other ways to get you. And it might even be more creepy.
Yeah. And I mean, they still can. That you're talking about the iOS update that was, I guess that's almost 15 year old now.
Yeah, it's a year. It's iOS 15.
But they still can use cookies. It's just
I thought 15.5 pretty much killed cookies. And also email targeting too.
Yeah. Well, the good marketers have found ways around it. So basically, if you just if you authenticate it the right way, you can still do it. Okay. So it doesn't kill it, but it majorly inconveniences some people. And that said, I mean, there's plenty of other ways you can still. So for instance, if it's what it really killed was like, okay, it hurt with the pixel tracking a lot, but it didn't kill it altogether because I know people that have got it working fine on iOS users. I haven't spent the time, so mine isn't working fine on that. But that said, I can just do video retargeting. And that doesn't affect video retargeting at all because that's on platform. So if I'm retargeting you based on the videos you've watched on Facebook, then it doesn't, there's nothing the phone can do about that because Facebook has the data internally.
So wait, that's a new one because I know they have leads. So if I can make my simple like post saying I do this, if you're interested, give me your email and verify it. How would I do video retargeting on Facebook then?
So easy. All you do is if you have any sort of video ad, what you do is you then set up a custom audience for people that have watched that ad or any other videos you want to include. And then you run traffic to that ad.
Oh, okay. That one. Got it.
So now that's because basically all the pixel was retargeting people that went to your website, right? Well, I can retarget people that just watch the ad, and there's nothing you're ever going to be able to do. Google can ever do about that, or Android can ever do about that because that's on platform. And there's many. That's just one example of different retargetings that you can still do. And Facebook owns both Instagram and Facebook, so you can do across platforms there too.
And WhatsApp now too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that finalized that they own what? WhatsApp?
They've owned WhatsApp for a while now. They are now considering monetizing it recently, which makes no sense. It's a messenger app. Suddenly you're going to get like, oh, we just read that you're hungry, so you should get Grubhub.
They claim currently that, like I said, I think their claims may be believable. They claim currently they don't run traffic in messages. And I can tell you on Facebook Messenger, you can report these messages and the bot will look at it or whatever, but for like harassment or whatever. But supposedly they don't use that for targeting. People claim they do. It could go either way. Maybe they do, but they could do everything they currently do without it. So it's believable to me either way because they actually don't have to break the law. They have enough data to do everything anyway legally.
Right. Well, and so for that the reason I'm convinced they do listen in the whole air quote for harassment back in like 16, 17, I only used Facebook Messenger. I was like that diehard. I can only use it. Don't even try texting my number. And it was one of those, I was talking about something really specific. Let's say sea monkeys. I never Googled it. I never looked it up. I never did any searches about sea monkeys. And suddenly I sent a message to my buddy saying, hey, I think I might buy one. I got ads everywhere. And I'm like, I didn't even.
Yeah. You hear about that a lot. And, it's not enough to 100% convince me. I get why it convinces people. And the reason it's not a way to 100% convince me is this. So does the company Sea Monkeys run ads?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
If you saw one, they run them. Okay. And when they set them up, you can go in the platform, what they're running targeting to, and you can't select based on people talking about it in Messenger. So they're going to show it to somebody. So when we're talking to your buddy after that, the next day, how many ads do you see? Only ads about sea monkeys, or you saw ads of all sorts of other things you don't remember? So somebody's seeing them.
So here's the funny thing. So recently, but I did this. I went to their site. I was looking up a product called Kachava. It was a healthy superfood. I just went to see what the prices were. And another one, I went to Amazon.
If you go to their site, you probably hit ping.
I hit so many pixels and flags. It's literally still in the Amazon one that's looking up Bitcoin wallets, just like the hard USB ones. I was just curious.
That's for sure going to get you ads.
All I see now, no other ads. I literally just get shit.
That'll erase everything because I think there's more money behind those ads.
Yeah. They have to pay a shit ton of money.
They're winning the bids by paying more. So yeah.
So all I get is Kachava and this one stupid metal Bitcoin wallet. That was just like someone mentioned like offhandedly there is such thing. I was like, oh, okay. I was just like, oh, there is now everywhere. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it, even though you keep showing me it.
Well, if you care, you can go into your ad settings. You can either click on the ads themselves and say, hide this ad, I don't like ads of that type. So you're never going to see less ads, but you can customize that and it really does work.
Okay, so next time
I played with it. Like you can turn these off. And like, if you say, don't make my ads specific. You will start seeing ads for Coca-Cola, for Walmart, I've tried that. So it really, like, they tend to be listening to that. So if you say don't listen to my information at all, you can go in your settings and try it. You'll get these super generic stuff.
I think I have it set to that. But I don't know why. It just on specifically Google Chrome, it's the hyper focused. I don't know if there's like a layering of difference, but yeah, it was just what else I was listening.
I played with it before, and it did appear to work. And if Facebook does want to listen to you, so if you're like, I don't want this stuff, like they want to show you now. Of course, what you really want is to see no ads. So they're not going to do that. So, but if you want to see ads about something specific, they would be thrilled to show you that, because that's their whole goal. That's why they collect all this information, is to show you stuff about what you want to see. As long as somebody else is willing to pay for it, which somebody out there probably is, if anyone is selling it. They'll pretty much listen to you and show you the sort of stuff that you want to see ads for. But the second you stop and look at an ad more, you're more likely, once again, you increase watch time, you're more likely to see ads of that type.
100%. Yeah. And that's actually one of those I personally have been doing. Without you even telling me, I just realized if I look at something more than like a blink, they're gonna, like, the computer's gonna go haywire and extra do that one. So what I do now is I can kind of tell by the pattern, like, okay, 3 posts have gone, there's gonna be ad, no matter what, just swipe hard kind of thing. And then
if I kind of don't mind seeing ads. I don't like scrolling in general. To be honest, ads are probably the most productive use of my time if I'm going to scroll Facebook, because if I see random posts from people on my Facebook, it's just going to be people being toxic and political. If I see ads, I see an ad that somebody's willing to pay for. I see sometimes a professional copywriter was paid $100,000 to write it. I see a product for professional editing, and I see what people are buying. I check out ads all the time. I'm like, okay, cool. This is what's working. Like all that. Like if I have free time, I don't mind seeing the ads, especially if they're specific on or something in my industry. I want to see every one of my competitors' ads, both martial arts gym and martial arts CRMs. I want to see all that stuff. Show them all to me, Facebook. Because
they're listening, they will.
Well, they want, what they want is to not spend on me, because I'm not buying that stuff. Right. So if they're trying to like find a way to not show me, but Facebook don't care. They get paid either way.
Right.
They want to give a lot of value to the advertiser, so that advertising money stays on platform for sure. They also want to make the experience good for the user, so the user stays on platform. Beyond that, they want to get paid. And that's pretty much all they care about, those things.
Yeah, it's all about the money. We got to make sure the advertiser is happy, and they'll spend more money, and then sometimes boo on the the person receiving on it. Honestly, I'm living this chat, but I actually need to head to bed. I work night shift.
All right, no problem. This
has been awesome. I got like 2 going out questions for you.
Okay.
So someone aspiring to be like you, a gym owner, guy who created his CRM, relatively speaking, very successful. What were some tips, tricks, or advice you give them to start down that path?
Man, find a mentor earlier on than me. Look at people doing similar stuff that you're doing. If possible, see if you can work for them. One of the best things I did was like when all that investment to go spend as much time as I could with my coach, Eddie Bravo, like get out of where I was and go to where around people I wanted to be like. Like if you're around the people that are doing the things you want to do, you'll your probability of success starts changing. And also just keep it just because something doesn't work out, just keep trying. That's kind of been my message the whole time we've been on here.
Oh yes,
but if something doesn't work out, because the first thing probably is not going to work out. keep trying. Don't. Opposite is shiny object syndrome, but it's like, and I've tried some different things too. But like, if you like, okay, I want to do my gym, I want to do this CRM, and I'll do a whole bunch of different things to promote them. But like, I have some degree of focus. So if you don't have any focus, you're not going to be a master. You're not going to be an expert. You're not going to get the personal development. You're not going to get all the things you need. So
100%. Keep your eyes on the prize and don't worry about the journey. Just get there, pretty much.
Yep.
So then where can everyone contact you at?
Oh, I'm hard to contact, but you can follow me on Facebook, Brian Barncap Debs. Same thing on Instagram. And yeah, I've got a YouTube channel as well, 10th Planet Beaumont. If somehow you happen to be near Beaumont, Texas, visit my school, 10th Planet Beaumont.
He might even give you a special deal if you mention the show.
Yeah, sure. Mention the show. I would be shocked. But
they actually, someone comes in and is like, so I heard you on the show and I was nearby.
Wait, show? That show? He's not local. I'm like, wow. Small world.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolute honor and a pleasure. You're always welcome on the show. I'm like, I think I gave you my link. So if you want to come on in the future, just book yourself a slot.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. Talk to you later.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations. You're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome and see you next time.